Welcome back, everyone. So, for one, do want to quickly apologize for the lack of content last week and a half. I got sick last week, just now getting over it. Still a little sniffly, congested, basically. You can probably hear it when I talk. My cough, if I do, I'll do my best to cover the mic. So yeah, trying to figure out how to do the opening. It's been a while. I didn't really write a script for this video like I generally would do. Magic is getting expensive. Yes, Magic already is a fairly expensive hobby. Excuse me, with the buying of sealed products, singles, stuff like that. I'm not going to get into the reserve list at all. I'm not touching it. Not touching that thing with a 10-foot pole. That is a very indecisive and diverse topic that a lot of people have a lot of feelings on either side of the spectrum. I don't want to get involved with that. My views on the reserve list are my personal views, but that's not what we're going to talk about. We're not going to talk about the reserve list or any cards on the reserve list or how they make Magic expensive, because we all know reserve list cards are generally going to be more expensive because they're not printed anymore. So as the higher demand goes for the card, the higher the cost goes up because there's less copies in circulation as people buy them, especially as people get into more older formats such as Legacy, Vintage, and including our format Commander, which does run a lot of reserve list cards. Not everything on the reserve list is banned. Good chunk of the good ones are. So with that out of the way, before we get into today's video, I just want to let you guys all know, if you do like my videos, please go ahead, hit that like button down below. If you want to see more of my content, feel free to hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to ring that bell icon to be notified whenever I have new content coming out. So let's get into today's topic. Now, I said I didn't write a script for this one because I'm just kind of going to go off of my feeling and kind of go off of what I noticed and trends I've noticed in Magic, especially those in Commander. Now, Commander is considered an eternal format. For those who don't know what an eternal format is, an eternal format is cards from all across Magic's history, from beginning to end. Generally, there's no cards that are, not allowed to play, banned cards. There is a banned list, but because Commander is considered a social format, Rule 0 technically applies there. So if your play group wants to play with the ban list, that's cool. If they don't, that's cool too, as long as you're enjoying the game, because it's a game, that's all that matters. But it's an expensive game. Now, I can say for sure, because I've been playing Magic for many years, and I've seen the fluctuation of cards go up and down. And I will definitely say for sure that in the last 2 years, paper Magic has gotten more expensive. As the push towards online play during COVID kind of started happening, where a lot of people were switching over to Arena or to MTGO. I don't even know if people still play MTGO anymore. I don't ever hear anyone talk about it. It's mostly people talking about Arena and complain about the economy on Arena and stuff like that, and changes and blah, blah, blah. But that's neither here nor there. It's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about the online function. We're talking about the paper Magic, the sitting around the table and playing with your friends and playing Commander, which didn't really die out too much during the pandemic. In fact, for Wizards, the first year of the pandemic, 2020, was one of their best years in a long time for selling product. People were still buying Magic product because what are you going to do? You need that. Sometimes you just need that little something to keep your mind off how crazy everything is going on in the world. So I do think COVID had a lot to do with card prices, only because there were sets that came out, especially in the beginning of the COVID, that weren't highly printed, that didn't have a high print run like you would see normally. So right there, that means a lot of those sets, when they were opened, there's not a lot of cards out in the wild. So those cards slightly going out. And then you're looking at, the cost of some standard decks, some modern decks. biggest things in, formats is your real estate or your mana base. When you're playing in an Eternal format, your mana base can get very expensive because you're running things from Shocklands to OG duels. Some people running the budget options and stuff like that, which is great. I do love the fact that Wizards is printing up more fetchable lands that are dual lands or triomes, stuff like that. But having those mana bases, if you're playing 3 to 4 to 5 colors and Commander, you want your mana base perfect. You want it clean, you want it good, you want to hit your colors at all times. And you definitely want most of your lands to come into play untapped. So you're going to go out of your way to pick up the more expensive dual lands, the fetch lands. Fetch lands didn't see a reprint for a long time. The enemy color fetch lands had only been printed in a Modern Masters and the original Zendikar set. And they were fetching enormous prices. I mean, you're talking $50, $60 cards for a land card that didn't add mana, just fixed your mana base. But they were good. So we're now kind of see more and more printings of them, which is really good because you can now pick up like Arid Mesas and Marsh Flats for like $20, which is pretty awesome. They're not the most used of those fetch lands, but still they're fetch lands. They help fix your colors. They sometimes, if you're in 3 color decks, you just throw them in there because you can technically run all 10 in a 3 color deck. And I don't do that, I swear. Anyways, I'm getting off topic here. So mana base is right there, kind of showing you how expensive the format is in general. Because typically if you're playing a lot of, I know I do a lot of budget decks on here and I talk about budget decks, but if you look at my budget decks, I keep them to 2 to 3 colors max. I don't go below that or above that. I don't go to 4 or 5, because when you get into those 4 and 5 color decks, the mana bases aren't that great, and it's just sometimes when you're playing a turn behind everyone, it's real hard to catch up. In some circles, not saying in everyone's, but I know in some circles, if you're playing a turn behind, it's real hard to get back into the game and progress. Now, shifting aside, like I was saying, I make a lot of budget decks, a lot of 2 color, 3 color decks, stuff like that, where basically you can throw a bunch of basic lands in and you're good. As long as you hit your basic land, your land drops, you should be fine. And budget decks are out there. They're in our format. Some of the coolest brews I've seen have been these like $50 or $60 budget decks that are awesome. But when you're playing up, when you're building a deck and you're slowly, you have that one deck you love. For me personally, it is my Corval deck. I've had my Corval deck for a long time. I built it up from the Brawl Precon, been made into a Commander deck, and then slowly over the years have been adding cards in, upgrading mana bases. I'm now running, I think, almost every fetch land in it, all the shock lands. I'll also have a bunch of other fetchable lands. I even run like the snow fetches, stuff like that. So one thing I've learned is that as time has progressed, I'm looking at some of these cards I bought for like, bought a couple months back, for $10, $15. You're looking at card prices of like 30, 35, 40. Look at, one of the biggest things I can say is look at Recruiter of the Guard. Recruiter of the Guard came out originally in Conspiracy Take the Crown, I think. One of those sets. Not 100% sure. Cards right up here. I picked it up for about $15 about 6 months ago. It is now, last time I checked, this is when I checked, I'm not telling you the exact date, but on the day I checked, it was going for like $40. So in 6 months, it climbed over 200%. That's insane. Not 200%, about 100, about 150%. It climbed a lot. I'm not a huge person on math, so don't quote me on that. Just know it is spiked. And a lot of cards are doing that. A lot of cards are going through spikes. Some cards are coming out super expensive. Look at some of the pre-con cards. You know, you have Dockside Extortionist, which is $60, I think. Last I checked was $60. Look at Fierce Guardianship, and look at Deflecting SWAT. You know, these are cards that are printed in pre-cons that are generally really overprinted, but their prices are so high, and you know, they're just really good staples, cards that you really want to see and really want to play with. I mean, I love playing Dockside Extortionist. That card feels great when you can land it. I love casting Fierce Guardianship. Feels amazing when your commander's on board and you get a free counterspell. It's like half the cost of an actual Force of Will for a commander. Deflecting SWAT's the same thing, you know. It's just a free spell that demands a high price. It's about a $40 card, which is more expensive than the deck that it was in when you could originally buy it for, you know, at Walmart or Target, or even at some of your, had a hair in my eye, Walmart or Target, or even some of the local game stores when they were selling them for like $40, $45. You know, these cards out of box were matching the box price and just climbing, you know. So it's making the format, I don't think it's making the format bad. Don't get me wrong. I will never say Commander's in a bad place. In fact, I think Commander right now creatively is probably in one of the best places it's been for a long time. There is such a diversity of legendary creatures. Commander Legends came out and gave us some awesome partners, gave us a couple new legendary planeswalkers that could be played as commanders. I don't think Commander is not diverse, but it is a very expensive format that if you think about it, yes, you can get into it for 40 to 100 bucks. Easily get into for that. But if you think about how much money over the years that you're gonna be putting into upgrades, and you know, commander players, we like to bling out our decks. Let's not lie here. We are the reason why foil costs go up so high, especially for old border cards. Because there's a lot of players out there like myself who appreciates, you know, the history of Magic and the older foils and stuff like that. So looking at it, it's definitely gotten expensive to play. I think it's not, I don't think it's going to go down though. I think it's going to kind of slowly, we're going to see it slowly trend upward. It might plateau out at some point. I don't know. I can't tell the future, anything like that. But I do foresee, at least for the future, my thoughts is that Commander is going to get fairly more expensive as time progresses. I mean, another addition I can kind of give you guys would be Mana Vault. I picked up Mana Vault for about $20 a couple years ago. About $20 for the revised Mana Vault, which last time I checked was roughly about $80 to $100, depending on condition. I have mine signed, so when I bought it, it was technically damaged, but still. Anyways, that's just my thoughts and feelings on the matter. If you guys can agree or disagree with me down there in the comment section below. I just thought I wanted to talk about it, kind of iterate where I see Commander going price-wise for the future. And as always, guys, play more games.